Hey, what is going on, everybody? Bauer Brown here. Welcome back to the channel, guys. In the video that I have for you guys today, we're going to be talking about tweaking your game a little bit. All right, so whether you have a fresh install of Farm Sim 22 and you're just getting into the franchise, or you have an existing install and you just want to tweak things a little bit, we're going to do some of the lesser known tweaks today, okay? We're going to adjust some of the settings. Now, most of these you're probably already aware of, but some of them that you may be aware of, there's kind of a hidden caveat to that. Let's say. All right, so let's get into this, and let me tell you what I'm talking about first of all. All right, so if you remember the last video that I did on the mod assistant, and we're looking at the mod assistant right now. All right, up here in user preferences, okay, when you scroll down a little bit, we have a section here called the game arguments. All right, so there's certain things that we can put in here that will affect our game as it starts and as it plays. All right, so you can see there's a couple examples here already. Right, we have dash cheats, skip start videos, script debug, auto start, save game ID, which is neat. Like the auto start, save game ID, if you go over to, let's see if we can find a game here, find out where we're at. Let's go into my E drive. All right. So Steam library. Oh, that's the wrong one. Let's go into, let's try this right here. Okay. So the game it's looking for is just the folder itself, right? So if you know that your save game that you want to start, when you start Farm Sim, if you want to start right into that map, right? It's already at the loading screen for that map. You just pick like save game 01, 02, 03. You have to know which number it is, okay? So the ID, that is the ID. So if we pull up one of the save games here and look, I don't think believe it gives you any other ID. I think just the folder number 01, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. I think that is what works for you there, right? So that's pretty handy. So not a lot of people really know about that one. All right, but there are a bigger list of game arguments that you can use. All right, now I used to have a bigger list at one point. I don't know what I did. What did I search for it? I cannot find it. If I do find it, I'll be sure to link to it in the comments. But maybe Googling will help you come up with a list that you can use there if you want to play around with things. Okay. So the two most common ones that I use here is the dash restart and the dash cheats. Okay, so let me explain the dash restart to you. Now, this is one that most of you, I would assume, know about, or a majority of you guys. But the deal with this is okay, so what it does is when you have dash restart, all right, when you start the game, when you start FS22, it will skip that intro video. So it's basically the same thing as the skip start videos that you see here, okay? Kind of the same thing. All right, so which is nice. So as map makers, that this comes in pretty handy if you're constantly starting the game and you don't want to have to look at that intro video every single time. All right, so here's the part that not a lot of people know about. All right, and I'll show you what this does in a minute. If you look at your game log, okay, so let's go over to back into Farming Simulator. Okay, so here's our game log down here, right? I'm looking at my log right here. Now, it's on the wrong screen. Every time you start your game with every new session, all right, this resets itself. It starts a new log for that session every time. So it only ever really holds one session, maybe two, but I believe it's just one. All right. So when you have dash restart in there, or you're skipping the intro video, now, I'm not sure how they how they think it doesn't make sense to me, but technically, when you have that in there, the game is not actually restarting. Even though you're shutting it down and turning it back on, so you're restarting it, it's not resetting your error log, okay? Your game log. So keep that in mind when you have a dash restart, when you are skipping the intro video, that your log is not resetting. It's going to keep tacking on each individual session. All right. So every now and then, as a developer, you need to go into your game log and you need to empty that out. Okay. Because if you do not, it's going to grow exponentially. It's going to get huge. If you don't check it for a couple hundred game sessions, you're going to have a couple hundred sessions logged in there, and it's going to get quite large quite fast. All right. So if you're going to use that dash restart, you need to go in every now and then and just delete everything that's in the game log. Just get rid of it, and then you can start all over. All right. So now I used to use this religiously, the dash restart, because I don't know, I thought it was cool to skip the intro video. All right. So I'm going to tell the truth here is for a long time, I knew that there was something wrong with my game log, but I did not know what it was. I thought I broke it running some kind of script. I just didn't know. All right. So I played around with it and I played around with it, trying to figure out why in the world is my game log getting so big? Did not know. All right. So it took a while for me to get that one figured out that it had to do with that dash restart. All right. So use that one with a bit of caution. Right. So if you want to get rid of your intro video, just keep in mind that your game log is going to grow. All right. Now, I don't use this anymore. Sometimes it depends. So I guess I use it on an as needed basis, but not as much as I used to. All right, because when that intro video comes up, honestly, it just takes a couple clicks of the mouse, right, and you're past it. So it's really not holding you up. It'd be a little bit of a different story if it forced you to watch that entire intro video, which it doesn't. So we're good there. All right, so the next one that I use here, right, that is something that I set up, and these are all tweaks that I do with every install, right? No matter what, with every install, these are the tweaks that I do. All right, now the dash cheats. All right, I have to look a little bit more into this one because I'll be honest, I don't know everything that it does, but it gives you capabilities that you would not otherwise have on a vanilla install of the game. All right, now the capabilities that I'm aware of, all right, when you enable the dev console, and if you look right below here, you see development controls, okay, that you can turn that off and on. Now, there's a couple places that you can do this. One, you can do this right through the mod assistant. And this is why I love this mod assistant. It's just an absolutely outstanding program. I recommend everybody gets it, and go to their website and donate if you can. Right. So these guys have a lot of work into this thing, no doubt about it. And they're not getting paid. So, show your support. And so, anyhow, like I said, you can turn your development controls on here, or you can go into the game settings itself. And this is back in your save game folder. You go into the game settings, and I believe down bottom here somewhere, it tells you you can turn the developer console on. Am I in the right place or am I in the wrong place? Could be in the wrong place. It sounds like me. I might be in the game itself. Let me double check here and see. Let's go to game. Okay, it's in game. All right. So we're here at the very bottom where it says development. You can controls. You can turn to true. Probably says false. And then open dev console. You can open it on warnings. So if a warning comes up, your developer console will open up and it will tell you, hey, you got a warning. And you can do the same thing for errors. Okay. Um, there are some other settings in here you can go through if you want to. You got some graphic settings, you got audio input, beacon light, logging, that sort of thing. All right, so back in the day, like in the FS19 days, a lot of these settings that we wanted to change, like these less common settings, we should say, we had to come into the game XML or the game settings.xml, and we had to make the changes in there. All right, so they weren't available in game, or now we have the what is it called? The developers toolbox. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about, right? And as a map maker, you should be using it absolutely 100%. Perhaps I'll do a video on that one day. Outstanding program or mod, I should say. But a lot of these settings are available through there or just other places. So you don't really have to come into the game.xml anymore to change these things. So it's not something that I pay as much attention to, um, or at least as much as I used to back in FS19. Okay, so the developer console as a map maker, you always want to have that on because you're going to use that at some point or another, and you'll be using it fairly often if you're troubleshooting correctly. All right, so like I said, you can turn your development controls on there, or you can do it through the game settings. Now, the game arguments, there is also more than one place to turn those on. You could do it right here through the mod assistant, and I do recommend that you get this mod assistant. Wonderful, wonderful application. The other place that you can get it is if you downloaded directly from Giants. Okay, so if you have the disc or it was a direct download, you didn't go through Steam, you didn't go through Epic or any of those other places. What you would do is you would find the icon for Farming Simulator on your desktop, right click on it, go down the properties. Now, mine says URL here. Where it says URL, you probably have something that says path, right? So it's giving you the actual path, the file path to the exe, to the game itself. All right. So after that path, that's where you would want to type, either dash cheats or restart or whatever game argument that you're using. All right, so that's the second way that this can be done. All right, the third way that this can be done is if you go through Steam itself. So let's open up Steam here, get into my library. Okay, and here's Farm Sim. So we'll click on Farm Sim and we'll go into the settings here and go down the properties. All right, so at the bottom of here, you see launch options. Okay, so that is also your game arguments. So again, in here, this is where you would put either, a dash restart or whatever game argument you want to use. Now, the launch options is a lot more useful than just those couple game arguments. Okay. I know at one point on any one of my computers, and I have a few, I have different versions of Farm Sim on different computers. So I have a bunch of installations going on here. And I believe it was my travel rig at one point. I reinstalled and it did not put it in a typical location. I'm not sure why, but it put it in like programs or something weird instead of being in my documents, my games, Farm Sim 22. It just said program. So it was really weird and it was throwing things off. Like things were not working correctly because of the path. And this is where I had to go to fix that. I had to go into the launch options and tell it where to go to find, my save game. It was crazy. I can't remember the exact scenario, but this is where I had to go to fix it. So I just wanted to make you aware that this launch options is good for a lot more than just those game arguments. All right, so that was the third place that you can get that those game options hooked up. Now, as far as the cheats, okay, so like I said, with the cheats, when you are in game and you're using like a, let's say, developer console or developer console, I think it's developer's toolbox. Am I wrong with that? Is that what it is? I believe that's what it is. But you know what I'm talking about. All right, so when you go in there, there's lots of things that you can do in there to test out your maps and just to make an environment. To either maybe you're shooting a video or, like I said, maybe you're just doing some testing on your map. But it's very, very handy. Not every single thing is available to you in there. Okay, so let me fire up my game real quick here. Okay, so here's where I said like a couple of mouse clicks and bang, I'm past it. No big deal. All right, so let's go into our options here. Okay, so like I said, the options that I'm talking about are the less common ones. We're not talking about like eye tracking and your volumes and setting your seasons and stuff like that. I'm not talking about that stuff, okay? What was I talking about before this? The developer's console. Yeah, it's pretty bad, isn't it? All right, so let's get out of here for a second. Now, if you hit the tilde key, all right, and that's that little squiggly line next to your number one key, all right, it's to the left of your number one key. If you hit it one time, that brings up basically this is your game log. All right. So as you're starting any one of your maps, or you're starting, Farm Sim itself, and you have this turned on, you can kind of watch things fly up the screen there. All right. So everything in yellow is a warning, everything in red is an error. Now it goes pretty quick. I believe you can use page up and page down to scroll back through that list, if you need to go back and find anything in there. All right. Now, if you hit it a second time, that brings up the console itself, right? So you can type some stuff in there, right? So you feel like a hacker. You can get in there and just all these cool commands that you can go in there and just do all these things that you want to do. Trying to find a screen that I can see a little bit better here. That's kind of better. All right, so if you hit the tab key, all right, this will take you through a lot of the commands that are available to you, right? And like I said, these come in really, really, really handy when you're testing your maps. And I'm definitely going to do a video on this at some point. A little behind on videos these days. But anyhow, now I could be wrong on this, so don't hold me to this one. But I believe if you do not have that dash cheats enabled, not every one of these. Now, there's going to be a lot of these commands are going to be available to you, but not every single one. All right. I believe with dash cheats enabled, there's a few more commands that would not otherwise be enabled. Now, I could be wrong on that, but I for some reason that sticks in my head that I think I noticed that. And like I said, when I get to When I get to that point, I'll do a video on it because I did have two different versions of this going at one time on two different computers, and there was a command that I used quite often, and I noticed it wasn't available, but it was available on my other computer. Now, what would be the difference there? And I kind of think it was that dash cheats, but like I said, it could be wrong. But in any case, if you're making, if you're a map creator or not, um, just enable that dash cheats. Excuse me. It's definitely worth your while to have that enabled. Okay. So that's my second recommendation for you as far as tweaking your system, your new install or maybe your existing install. All right, so hitting that tilde key again will get you out of there. All right, so I want to go back here and I want to get back into my options. So this is my own, I guess, my own personal preference here. But if I get into my display settings, right? So this is something that I'm sure everybody tweaks at one point or another. If you have like this beefy system that's just completely awesome, you probably want to adjust everything to the max and get the best possible experience that you can get out of this game. And hopefully, you know what you're setting. I do not. I mean, at one time, I knew basically what every one of these settings did, and I can explain them all to you. But anymore, man, I just can't keep up, and I don't know. Maybe one should be off and another one should be on, or if you're using this one, you shouldn't be using this one, or maybe this should be set to the max. So I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe I should spend some time doing my homework, looking these things up, so I know exactly what everything does. All right, but I don't, and shame on me. All right, so what I recommend as far as this goes, and this is something that I do personally because I just don't know. All right. So what I do, if you're an NVIDIA user, all right. Now I apologize because this doesn't really work for AMD. Now I do have another system that is AMD, so maybe I should research that and see if it does something similar. But anyhow, if you're an NVIDIA user, they have something called the GeForce Experience. Okay, and I'm sure you're probably aware of this. Now, not everybody uses it, so that's why I'm throwing this out there. All right. Now, this is normally where you would update your drivers and stuff for your video card. But if you go to home, you can add some games, right? So you can see that I have Farm Sim 22, I have Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I have Minecraft in there at this point. Okay. So I have those three games. All right. So if you add that game in there and you go to details, okay, and you look on the right hand side here, mine says I'm using the optimal settings. Now, if I was not, there would be a button here that says optimize. All right. So you can go through and you can see where it's adjusting, the foliage draw distances, the LOD distances. It's adjusting all of these things for you. Now, these are things that I used to have to go through and I used to have to tweak manually. Like I said, back in FS19, we have to I mean, this was still available in 19, don't get me wrong. But this is a lot of really cool stuff like the DLSS. I don't know what that does. All of this stuff, the card itself, this program is tied directly to your card and it knows what the capabilities of your card is. It knows the capabilities probably better than you do. I'm sure of that. All right. So to take the guesswork out of this for me, I just go in here and I hit optimize and it goes in the farm sim and it sets all of my advanced graphic settings to their, I guess, optimal settings. All right. So if you weren't aware of that, that's something I recommend that you be doing on a new install or an existing install. It doesn't matter. But to get the best out of your game and your video card, that's what I recommend doing. Unless, like I said, you know what each one of those settings does, then by all means go in there and give it help. All right. All right. So like I said, if you do that and you let GeForce, you let NVIDIA optimize itself. If there's anything down the road that you see that needs to be tweaked, right? Something could be a little bit better, or maybe something is getting a little laggy because it's tweaked a little too much. Then you can go back and you can adjust things to your liking. But this is a good jumping off point, okay, to use the GeForce experience and let NVIDIA set that up for you. All right, so we had that. That was my next tip there that I had for you as far as tweaking things. So the next thing that I have for you guys, I'm trying to think of everything I wanted to go over today because I am notorious for not keeping notes. Shame on me. But anyhow, all right. So with every fresh install, every new game, let's say every new map that you play, right? Um, and I know a lot of us especially this goes for you PC guys. All right. If when you're really into mods. You're getting into all these different mods that do different things, and you're constantly trying new maps, and you're really getting into things. All right, with each new map, okay, that you get into, when you start that map, you have to go through your list of mods. Now, everybody usually has a go-to list of mods, right? You have your favorite mods that you use every single time on every map, no exceptions, right? Every time. I know I do. I know many people that do this as well. Okay. So instead of going into every time you start a new map, having to go through and find those mods in your huge list, which will be a lot more manageable if you use the mod assistant, by the way. But anyhow, instead of going through and finding each one of those mods and having to check them, all right, what you can do is if you go into your save game folder here and you scroll down, right? And you'll see a folder here called PDLC. Okay. If you open that up, now you can see I have the AGI pack in there and I have auto drive in there. All right. If you open that up, any of your mods, your go to mods that you use over and over and over, all right. If you take those mods and you put them in here, you put them in your PDLC folder, all right, you'll never have to go and search for them again. It will load them automatically on every single map. No problems, right? Easy peasy, wonderful. Now, I can't guarantee that these are going to update with the rest of your mods. Not sure on that one. I have to test that one out. But like I said, the functionality of this will allow those mods to start up with every single map, which is awesome. So all of my go-to mods, I throw them in here and I never have to think about them again. Right. So then the only other mods that are in my mod list are things that I'm playing around with, things I may or may not want to try. Right. So I know all my go-tos are taken care of and I am good to go. All right. All right. So those were that was the small list of tweaks that I had for you. All right. So like I said, it didn't matter if you are in a new game or a fresh install of Farm Sim, right? If you're just getting into it, or maybe you're just new to the whole franchise and you didn't know some of these things were available, or maybe you've been doing this for years and you're just learning a few things for the first time, or maybe you knew everything on that list and I'm just wasting your time. That's what it comes down to. But anyhow, that's my list for you. I hope that helped. And like I said, I forget what I was going to say. Shame on me again. So, anyhow, I am going to leave it right there. So, with that being said, I am Bauer Brown, and I will see you on the next one.